Today, on the Motherhood Network, we welcome a leader whose work sits at the center of one of South Africa's most important metropolitan municipalities. Dr. Moya is the executive mayor of the city of Tshwane, a role she assumed in October 2024. Born in Mthatha in the Eastern Cape, Moya's journey into public leadership has been shaped by a deep commitment to governance, policy, and public service. She studied at the University of Cape Town, where she completed a Bachelor of Social Science and Politics, followed by an honours degree in Public Administration and a Master's in Public Policy and Administration. She later earned her PhD in Political Studies from the University of Western Cape. Before becoming executive mayor, she served as the city of Tshwane's first deputy executive mayor and previously worked as chief of staff to the executive mayor. She also served as chief governance director for Action SA. Today, she leads a city that is home to millions of South Africans working across multi-party administration to shape the future of communities and families. And today, we speak to her not only about leadership, but about the realities that families and mothers experience in our homes and neighborhoods. This is the Motherhood Network. Are we rolling?
Are we rolling?
Okay, action. Executive Mayor of Tshwane, Dr. Moya, thank you so much for joining us here on the Motherhood Network.
God, thank you so much. And congratulations on this platform, by the way. I saw your first interview. I was like, wow. So congratulations.
Wow.
And thank you for having me.
Well, thank you. Really and truly, it's such an honor to have you here. It also, I think, is so inspiring to see a young woman like yourself in the space that you are and to be executive mayor of such a big city as well, It's incredible for a lot of us, women, but also young girls as well. And of course, it's the Motherhood Network. So, of course, we celebrate mothers. And so, as mothers, we're deeply invested in the states of this nation, our beautiful country, South Africa. So, this episode is not political. It's from a household perspective and just from a household reality perspective, And Tshwane is the administrative capital of South Africa, as you know. And so, when governance works here, it sends a signal nationally as well. And when it falters, of course, we feel it immediately. And so we've seen you assume this position, office, October 2024. And we've seen the movements you've made, and we've seen how passionate you've been as well. But let's delve into that so our mothers feel comfortable.
Yes.
We're doing it for the future generations. This is the legacy as well. And you understand that so well as a fellow female. So women represent a key demographic in terms of voting as well. And I think a lot of people aren't aware, even mothers as well, the power that they have in terms of voting. So not only are we the biggest voters, but you find that people who really truly turn up to vote from an election block perspective are women from 35 years up. And usually those are mothers. So we're going to delve into many, many interesting aspects of that and how you've been running Tshwane as well, which is really exciting. Now, when you speak governance and stability, we'd like to know what were the first structural reforms you implemented to stabilize governance, because there was a lot happening before you came in to office.
Yes. So firstly, before October 2024, January 2024, I became the deputy executive mayor with no experience in public office. So the first day I was sworn in as a PR councillor, I was elected deputy executive mayor.
Wow.
Talk about being thrown in the deep end. But before that, I have worked for the city of Tshwane, and I want to then take you through the structural reforms.
Yes.
So end of 2016 until beginning of 2019, I was the head of the Chief Whip's office in the city. Beginning of 2019 until May 2020, I was the chief of staff to the then executive mayor.
Yes.
So I came back. So I left Tshwane, an aggrieved former employee, and said, I will never go back.
Imagine.
It just happened that I will then manage the coalitions on behalf of my party. And Tshwane became this coalition that I must now manage. I must go back to Tshwane House.
Can you imagine? That time you saw that I'll never come back here.
And this is now 2021, end of November, I think, when the coalitions were formed, 2021. And between then and January 2024, I come back to a city that I remembered to be working, where we used to just order catering without thinking twice, to a city that can't even afford stationery, a city that used to have at any given stage surplus budget.
Yes.
You come back and they tell you there's 4.6 billion deficit this year. This has been happening for 4 years. And so for me, when I was managing the coalitions, very difficult circumstances, and you realize that the socio-economic, even the character of the city has changed, of course, after COVID. Now, coming back in January 2024, I come back as a compromise candidate for my party because I don't want to be a public representative. We don't have a candidate. Can you do this for 3 months while we're getting someone to take over from you as the deputy executive mayor? That's the deal. That's how I accepted the position.
So interesting.
It's temporary.
3 months, okay.
After 3 months, my president wasn't taking calls. We had a deal like, no, have you found a candidate? No, then don't talk to me. So anyway, so I then work as a deputy executive mayor in a coalition where you know you're not doing what you're supposed to do. You're not punching above your weight. You are doing average. And to a point where then we change coalitions. Now, from being the second in charge to being the first in charge, where do you start? How do you convince 8 other different parties what should be priorities? Now, we had to start where we had to start. The finances of the city.
Yes.
How do you turn around a broke city? So we then we did basics, Nandi, I won't even lie to you. There was nothing that came from Oxford in what we did. We said, where are the debtors book? Put it here. The debtors book is here. Where's the creditors book? Put it here. How much are we collecting on a monthly basis? This is how much. Who is not paying? Why aren't they paying? It's the culture. People have basically disengaged. And we said, so we're going to do a few things. One, we're going to go back to communities and inculcate the culture of payment and promise them, if you pay us, we'll invest back into services. You will get services if you pay.
Wow.
And those who were hit by COVID, we will make plans for them. There was a debt relief scheme where we gave discounts on the interest and gave payment arrangements. That's how we dealt with the debtors book. Creditors, who do we owe? 11 billion rand in debt. Who do we owe? 6.6 billion Eskom alone. In addition to that, or what made it worse, an average of about 750 million per year on interest alone. That's why that amount it just kept ballooning from 1.2 billion to 6.6 billion in a space of 3 years because of the interest. You don't pay your current account. And so creditors, we then entered into an arrangement with Eskom. Now we must deal with the collections. Businesses start paying, the residents started paying. But we said we're not going to be opulent. We're going to cut expenditure. Because the moment you think the money we go and collect from Tshwane Yatima is for you to just pay anything and everything, what are the key and core service delivery line items we can't live without? That's water, that's electricity, that's service delivery, whether it's cutting grass. But then we said, you can't hire contractors every time there is a service. What about the over 21,000 employees that we have? What do they need? They say tools of trade. We started buying equipment for horticultural services, buying equipment, more vehicles for our guys so that they don't rent. We do it an outright purchase. We started saving money. So we made these announcements December 2024.
Yes.
We gave feedback beginning of February after 100 days. When we took the draft budget in March 2025, we were tabling a funded budget because of the work that we've put in the first 100 days in office. People said it's not possible because the previous administration had planned to have a funded budget this financial year. So we had to move it a year ahead.
Sure.
At that time, you are dealing with the audit findings, qualified audit findings. While there's improvement from the previous year, but the AG says to us, the culture of this organization doesn't enable performance management, consequence management, holding anybody accountable. How are you going to build this city? You don't have SOPs, you don't have record management. There's just the competence of the people who are making decisions on a day-to-day basis. How do they make those decisions without SOPs and record management, proper record management? There's no oversight in the city. You need to start from scratch. We worked. So you start way because the rest of the stuff, which is just to make big decisions enough to get the residents to say, but there's a government in Tshwane. Residents have stopped engaging with the city. If you are looking at our stats on the customer relations, they just, and most of those who could afford, they just went private. Private this, private that.
Absolutely, yes.
Communities started cutting grass on their own. They started fixing streetlights on their own because they said, well, what's the difference? And so that bothered me the most. I said, if you don't have residents who are engaged, who will judge you if you are doing the right thing or not? I need the residents of Tshwane to know their rights. Yes, it means now where you just sitting and then 12 different messages on different matters come in through your phone. But that's what we need. Because when they were not engaging, people were not as bothered that they were failing. Now they tell me every single day, whether it's on Facebook, they tell me I'm failing.
Yes, and
I'm
I've
doing
seen
good.
that.
No, they.
Yeah.
So that bothered me because you can talk about infrastructure, you can make those decisions, you can prioritize your budgets, you can talk about economic growth. So I decided we're gonna spend time in communities. People must not think a mayor is someone who sits in the office. I then got into the overalls. When I'm standing there, there's a taxi driver passing like, hey, Mayor, how are you? I was like, that's the stuff.
Yeah.
Because we don't want a government that's too far from the people. So in terms of then what changed, we started using the finances as our base on what needs to change. Because whether you change the societal attitude towards payment, whether you're changing the expenditure patterns of officials, whether you are strengthening your processes for audit findings, the base is the finances. Build that, and that was the hardest part of the work.
Yes.
And so we are, just yesterday, the National Treasury came and they still confirmed we do have a funded budget. And for me, that was one of those areas where we needed to prove to the residents that we are serious, that there's nothing impossible in the work that we do. So in the structural changes, that's where we started.
Wow, you know what you said? It's very inspiring from a standpoint of, first of all, the reason why government was created in the first place was for the people, and I think people forget about that. And so, as you're saying, government should be on the ground. And then, from an investment perspective, are you seeing optimism now in the city where investors are willing to invest in Tshwane because, as you're saying, they're seeing progress?
Yes. So two parts. So firstly, on the first part that you made, which is very powerful, Nandi, in the democratic South Africa, we must force people to care about what government does with their money. There is no favor. Nasiphi waking up to be in the office at 7 o'clock is not a favor to people of Tshwane. I said, I'm available to serve. What did I think that meant? Now, when you wake up on a Tuesday at 10 o'clock while you are serving the people, what do you think you're doing? This is a 24/7 job People always say it's a thankless job. I didn't do this to be thanked. I said I wanted to serve.
Powerful.
And so that's the first part where for me, I mean, now if I walk in the streets of Tshwane, one person would recognize me. First, they look at me like, is it you? What are you doing here? Yeah, it's her. If I'm dressed like this, then they're like, where are your clothes?
Yeah. But why are you here?
Yeah, but also where are your clothes?
Yeah,
Because this is just weird. But then, so the citizens was one stakeholder that we needed to activate, and we did imbizos, and I started being like too active on socials where I can find those who are at work who can't make it to the community halls, and being consistent that when they raise issues, I'm there. I don't only respond to the blue ticked accounts.
Yes.
So that was important. But then the business, there's nothing sad like leading hungry people, Nandi. Where you go to Imbizo, you must finish in 2 hours because you can't give them more than water. But you look at them and say, I wonder if there's food where they're going. And that's the state of our country, the state of our province, and state of our city. Our people are hungry. Those promises in the Constitution has not reached our people. And so business then becomes your ally.
Yes.
Business has started, there's a case that broke my heart where business pay us our rates and taxes. But then there's an organization that then organize business and say, please pay us this portion every month so we can do what the municipality cannot do. I started saying, we can't do that. I need to discuss important things with business. It can't be about cutting grass for us. And then I started being intentional about going to business parks. We cut grass, we beautify, we talk to people, we leave and say, please focus on the important conversation I want to have with you. Please grow the economies and create jobs for my people. I'm begging you. We then, one of the decisions we took was to have an economic revitalization strategy.
Yes.
So every city, every province had a strategy to recover from COVID, not Tshwane. Tshwane just hope is a strategy. They were just hoping. And I'm talking about senior officials. It's not that there are no people who are employed to do this work. And saying, how are we going to revitalize the economy that once grew by 6%? And now 2023 is growing by 0.3%.
Sure.
Where do you start? We then said, first of all, at least let's have a strategy. Be as bold as possible, drafted by our own officials who are talented and capable, by the way. There's no external firm who must come and tell us how to do our work. We've got PhDs and whatever, MBAs in the city.
Well.
It's like draft it there.
Yes. Yeah.
And so they gave us this strategy. We started taking to the industries, to the different sectors, different regions. Do we make sense to you guys? We want to grow this economy by 3.9% by 2029. We used to be at 6% to 0.3%, but there's potential. Let's be in the middle. Can we do this? We want to attract 16 to 26 billion of investment by 2029. It's going to give us 80,000 jobs in formal investment. Can we do this? I remember the governor of Reserve Bank saying, it's crazy, I love it.
I love it.
It's crazy, I love it. Then we consulted business. Fast forward, 10th of September, we have an investment summit. Put your money where your mouth is. You said this is a good strategy. Yes. Support us. We went in that investment summit. It was only 4 hours, by the way. We didn't do the 2 days good because we can't afford it. 4 hours, that's all we could afford. And so when we went in, I remember when we were briefing the media days before, they asked, what is your target? We said, our target is 5 billion rand in pledges. That will give us an indication whether business is with us or not.
Oh, yes.
We go in. The pledge is confirmed by before 12 p.m. We were at 26 billion pledges in different sectors. By end of the second day with 89 billion rands. Those who did not attend and they had our presentations because we presented the strategy, our infrastructure development plan, our investment toolkit, our property strategic asset portfolio that we want to put to the market. We then said this is our strategy for you to have ease of doing business with the city. When those who were not outside Tshwane saying we heard that this is what was presented, we saw the documents because we're sharing with everybody, 89 billion. Right now, in 2 quarters, we had 15 billion worth of investment in the pipeline. That was firstly how I saw that the business just needed to be activated. How else do we know? They are paying their rates and taxes again. The previous year, if we were comparing the first 2 quarters, which was reported December 2024, and the first 2 quarters as reported December 2025, the difference was 1.4 billion rand in revenue collected, I promise you. Businesses started to pay. And
businesses started to pay.
businesses started to pay.
Yeah.
And not because, but it for me, that was an indication that, okay, we see what we are trying to do.
Yes, there's some confidence.
There's some confidence. And to
Sure.
see the queue at our economic development department, at special planning, at our
Yes.
Tshwane Economic Development Agency, just them coming through to say, I want to do this in Tshwane. And someone calling me say, I was in some boardroom in Western Cape. Geez, people are talking about Tshwane. Like, that's the stuff. So in terms of investment, it's not for the sake of it. And this is the message I remind the colleagues. If this investment we're talking about, in 10 years' time, we won't have children who say, whoever was in power in 2025, thank you to that person. Because they would have felt it in communities. That we can see more and more young people in Tshwane, instead of moving to informal settlement, they're moving to social housing. They can afford a bond, they can afford a rent.
Yes.
That's what we are doing this thing for. Where you have mothers in the informal sector that don't just sit on a crate, Nandi, every single day, selling their tomatoes under scorched sun. We don't give them the facilities to do so. And those are the things that it's not difficult. Just do it.
Just do it.
Just do it.
And there's no favor as well. It just needs to get done.
You said you
Loved what you
wanted
said.
to do it, then
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah, you're right.
Protect the people, because that's the job. If you can't do it, please just move aside. We'll come
move
back when
aside.
you are ready. If you're still intending here, move. We'll come back for you.
And you know, you're right, where the country justifiably is so frustrated. You actually spoke about spatial planning as well, which is a legacy from apartheid, you know, and we're a long way. We have a long way to go when it comes to situations like that. But you're right, where there's a sense of urgency and agency, where we need to see tangible results as well. Especially as Abantu Bamnyama, you were saying, even the legacy of townships.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and why they were built in the first place, you know, to frustrate us as well, you know. But I love the fact that you're speaking of the fact that there is a brighter future, especially for the next generation, but they must be able to see it through hopefully your legacy, you know, and others as well who are really willing to create that change, you know. And I say this when, as much as we all say, oh, we're not into politics or, you know, but politics does affect all of us. It is who we are, you know. And so, as mothers, how would you be able to communicate to us now, mothers, that in Tshwane, we're going to be okay? You've just spoken about the milestones, for example, but there's so much happening, not only in Tshwane, where people feel attacked, people feel unsafe. Kidnapping was a big issue in the city as well. Not being able to chase your kids, immigration's being a big problem as well, you know, as well as the normal issues you've spoken about in address, water, electricity, and so on. But just as a mother now having kids, how do we feel safe? What are the measures that you guys have put in? And I've heard some of them, but I know that it's a great city. We love the city as well. But as a mother, just to know that, okay, we are in good hands now.
Yes. There's few basics that we still need to do more of. Issue of safety is so personal. And I always say, because last year people were like, yeah, but why are you focusing on safety and bylaw enforcement? I said, we are the only ones who have the mandate to protect the public.
Yes.
That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. Whether it is to make sure that the spaza shop complies, or we're just talking about, the prosecution that happens in some dodgy part of Pretoria West in the bushes. It's my job to protect those people, whether they like it or not. And so when it comes to security, it is so dynamic. But as a mother who must leave the house at 6 a.m. and go catch a taxi, leaving 2 teenagers that must walk to school, what do you need?
Yes.
In winter, you need streetlights. So that at least you're not in the dark, that someone can grab you, no one can see. When you scream, no one can, right?
Yes.
So as something as basic as that, we must cut grass. That if there's someone who's on the other side who can see that person, if you have to run, you must run.
That's true.
We must work together with community leaders, to work with SAPs, to make sure that people have whistles. I had delivered whistles at Easteras the other day. I said, I don't have budget. I'm not that kind of a mayor. I don't have money. But I've got whistles. I could afford this one.
Yeah,
350, 10
practical
of them.
solutions. Yes.
When you are feeling unsafe in your house, blow a whistle. Then people will come to you. There are houses we know, but take some drugs there.
Ish.
And we pretend we don't know this. So-and-so son goes in, they walk out, and then they sleep next to the yard. We pretend this is not happening.
And yes, gosh.
Now, these are the basic things that we must do. We need our police or law enforcers to be in communities. Kazi was not designed for us to prosper.
No.
Now, when people want to glamorize a township, it was not meant for you. Now, when you have a small yard, you can't even, have a garden, it was not meant for you to prosper. Now, what do we do, Nandi? Because we know that the density in Ekasi, it doesn't give you the dignity that you need. What kind of future cities are we to build so that in 15 years' time, we do not repeat the apartheid spatial planning? I have issue of the disconnection between the spatial planners and the leaders. That I can have a spatial planner that is busy approving something that is not going to correct the injustices of the past. And it just happens. I don't know, because I'm not the trained one. But it's disconnected to the vision that I have to say, if in 6 years' time, Tumi buys a house, her mother may not have gotten that opportunity. But Tumi should be able to raise her kids in a yard where she's got privacy in 6 years' time or 10 years' time. Now, these are the future plans. But what do we do now? Let's make sure the street lights are on, grass is cut, police, they are visible in communities, and they are not corrupt, and they don't sell out communities. Because sometimes we deal with that a lot. They know who sells drugs. They don't go there because those are their friends. Madlanga is telling us things that we always suspected what was happening. And you make sure that community members must stop this thing of outsourcing their powers to politicians. They must stop that thing. Politicians have a role to play. Community must stand as one.
Wow.
I promise you, they will never overpower us for as long as they allow us politicians to divide them using a T-shirt. And say, well, now you are my member, you're not allowed to say that in a public meeting. In fact, when you speak, you must be for me. They mustn't allow it, because politicians then leave that community meetings and go to their safe houses. You then left with your community members. You are left with your house, with your children. Who are you choosing? Are you choosing your family, or are you choosing politicians?
Are you choosing a T-shirt?
Are you choosing a T-shirt over your
family?
children? Because at the end of the day, you don't live with politicians every day. You live with the community. And I need community members to be more involved, especially the Black ones.
Sure.
They are not involved. And I understand that our past, it's easy to mobilize in terms of political parties. That's not the future. The future now is that politicians come through your political parties. We will elect you. Come tell us which coalition you're going to form and give us the best that we can give to you. But for the 5 years, hold us the hell out of, like,
Yes,
accountable.
accountable. Yeah.
Because this is not taking communities. This loyalty to us as politicians more than their communities. It's not taking them anywhere.
Sure. You said something so profound where we are, and mothers watching right now, we are one community.
Yes.
Let us not be divided.
Don't be divided.
Let us have one goal. And that's so true.
Yes.
You know, we've spoken about a lot of issues, but I'd like to tap into any stories that you have that are positive, where you've seen just by your work, the work you've done on the ground, and you've seen people's lives change, whether small or big, but where you know that, okay, I've left a little bit of a legacy already. I know there's so much you still want to do.
Whew, I think, and it's not always the big ones that move me. It's the one community, the one person
Yeah.
that says, now that you've made this decision. And I'm gonna lean more on to the mothers, the stories that will touch the mothers. During COVID, we then hear that there's a reservoir in Mamelodi that has been hijacked. The people there are guarding it with the rifles. That happened. Unfortunately, one of the people mentioned is one of that is being mentioned in the Madlanga Commission, that he was leading this hijacking of this reservoir. The community of Ikageng was without water for 6 years. We had a reservoir, we had the pipes, we had the infrastructure. They used to have water until that reservoir was hijacked. It took us how many months? 2-3 months. And the people of Ikageng have water in their taps again.
So what took 6 years took you guys 2-3 months.
Yes. We just made a decision. We said the community of Ikageng must have water again. Officials, what do you need? What will it take? I remember going there looking at pipes as if I understand what pipes do there with my colleagues. And every Friday, there was a report about Ikageng, among many issues. That's one. Hammanskraal water is a very complex and long coming, with loss of life. Because, sometimes you don't understand the significance of the crisis until you have loss of life. We lost people in Hammanskraal. And I remember when I was elected deputy executive mayor, Thabo Mdluli asking me, why would you do this to yourself? Your career, why would you have Hammanskraal water as one of your goals? Because you probably won't achieve it. Those who came before you couldn't. And January 2025, when I drank the first glass of clean and safe water, drink it in a community that if there was a kid that was born there 20 years ago, that was the first time they saw water flowing, water, dirty or not, water flowing out of their taps. 20 years. If there was a kid who was born 20 years in that community, there was no infrastructure. There's never been water coming out of the tap. And that day, that kid would have said, oh, this is how it feels to have water coming out of your tap inside your yard, not standing in a queue to get water with a bucket from a water tanker. Listen, Hammanskraal water is long coming, but it's going to be done. And when it's done, I want the community of Hammanskraal not to be reminded where they come from. I want them to normalize it as if it's always been like that.
Yes.
Because sometimes we want to
should.
imprison a residents with gratitude. No, that was never even supposed to happen. But the latest one, sometimes as lawmakers, we forget the power we have, and only we have it. Now, there is something that is very disruptive in government, the issue of the mandates.
Yes.
It's not my mandate.
Oh,
it's
yes.
Unfunded mandate. It's underfunded mandate.
I know the mothers are nodding whilst watching this.
I can't do anything for you here. On education, it's not my mandate. Now, we've got ECDs in informal settlements. Tshwane has over 500 informal settlements. We've got those. We've got townships like Mabopane, Winterveld. Winterveld, Hammanskraal, Sokhulumi. They have unproclaimed land, meaning it's either belongs to someone else or belongs to tribal land. Now, you want to say the ECD practitioners in an informal settlement in Gomora must use the same rules as an ECD in Waterkloof. Where is the transformation? Exactly. What are we trying to do? So this came as an issue last year. No man, the ECD practitioners want to raise issues. They came protesting in Tshwane House. What are the issues? No, they are just asking you guys, like your regulations are too rigid for them and they are too expensive. Sure. One time in August, we go for an operation with the premier in Soshanguve, Giant Stadium. Yeah. As the premier is reading his address, there is a group that is singing on the stands. My colleagues go, then I get a call. No, they say they won't stop until you come through. I go join my colleagues. What do you need? We need you to waive the fees. We need you to change the requirements because we'll never comply if you're using these requirements. That was August. We went back to the office, colleagues, draft a report that we're going to take to council to waive all the unrealistic requirements for informal settlements, townships, unproclaimed land. Please do that for me. They drafted it. End of January, we got it approved by council. We then called them last week. Come, let's explain how this is going to work. Nandi, we had almost 400 people from all these people. Remember, we have about 500,000 children who are 7 years and younger.
Yes, this is early childhood development. Yes.
Early childhood development. These people don't have access to funding because they are not complying. So the requirements for funding is us helping them to comply. After all these years, I mean, when the lady who's our divisional head told them that, no, if you applied between 2022 and 2026, you don't have to resubmit. We're just going to waive all the fees and we're just going to give you your certificate. They clapped like this is a miracle.
Oh, I'm getting goosebumps at that, yeah.
And here is the thing, Nandi. If government does not remind itself, what are we trying to solve for? And that's the future of this country.
Yes.
I'm an optimist because the Constitution for me is everything.
Yeah.
It may not be perfect, but it's a symbol of people like you and I who have no excuse but to deliver on that promise because people brought us that far. Now, I always say to people, I'm one mayor, Nandi, that I will never be corrupt. I will never take the money of the municipality, whether directly or indirectly, and enrich myself. Because I know what happens when that when people do that. I come from a rural area, village, Mbikwana. The school I went to, the class, I was there the last time I did my sub-A, and now exposing my age, sub-A in 1994.
Yeah.
The class that I was attending in, the kids today still use the same class.
The same class.
Nothing has changed. Pit toilets in my village. That's what I was subjected to. The kids who were born decades after I've left my village.
Nothing
Now
has
I'm
changed.
saying, why should we do that to our own people? Who will stop it? And so I say it, wherever I go, I will never be corrupt. When I want money, I'm going to resign and go make money. I will never take the money that is meant for people and enrich myself. That's too cowardly for me. That's too cowardly. You don't want to do the hard work. You don't want to do the sacrifices, to make the sacrifices. That people have made worse sacrifices. They died. Where now you just can't take, they even pay you. There's a salary, it's not for free. The counselors before us, they used to do this for free. Now we get paid, Nandi, a comfortable wage. Now you want to say, no, after hours, I must still go summon group heads and HODs and ask, how am I going to campaign? Where is the budget for the campaign? How evil is that? So there is also an attitude. When you go vote, listen to us. What are we saying to you we're going to do? And vote for that.
You know, I appreciate the transparency so much. I feel re-energized. I know a lot of mothers as well watching this as well. But, you know, there's a sense of me just thinking, where did you get this bravado from? Just briefly, as a child growing up, and like you said, in Makaya, where do you get this bravado to say, one day I'll lead? Because you also studied what you're obviously doing now.
Yes.
Where did that inspiration come from?
My father, he always thought that I was just too amazing and too talented and too everything. Like, that man, like, he was my number one fan. So here's my story briefly.
Yes.
So, and people, you always say, "I only pantsula Meya." So growing up, I'm a fifth of five daughters.
Yes.
So I was raised by my sisters. I was raised by women.
Yes.
My mom was, that woman was something else. I was actually thinking this morning that Mama did not want us to compare ourselves to other people. She always said, so if your friends kill themselves, will you kill yourself?
Yes.
When you say, I want what my friends say. Standard answer when you want to go to a party or something, it's like, oh, you didn't tell me. I wouldn't have bought you uniform. I would have bought you me back. I'm like, why, girl? Why? So Mama was that parent.
Yeah.
Principled as they come, hardworking, very difficult childhood, but she decided, I'm going to raise my children with standard 2. She decided, listen, all my children are going to be educated. By the time she passed in 2018, she had attended 8 graduations.
Can you imagine?
Standard 2, that woman never said, I don't know anything about education. I always tell people the fight that I had with my mother. We fought about one thing, combing my hair. It's not happening from a very young age. But the second time is when I told her that I'm not going to go work full time, I'm going to do honors. She didn't know what honors was. She thought I was dodging that I don't want to go work.
Yeah.
But by the time my younger brother finished his national diploma, Mama then said, no, continue with your honors.
Oh, wow.
Right? So there is that. My upbringing, my mother was everything, but my sisters, played a huge role. So at home, we raise each other. The first group raised the second,
Absolutely.
and then.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the other side of me, so when I'm under pressure, I channel my mother, where I'm like, nothing is going to be impossible. That's my mom's side. Dada is the one that just sees the future, the vision, the everything. So that's Dada. And so I was the boy of the family.
Yes.
So of the 5, my brother is 7 years younger than me. So imagine they don't have boys. So my name is Nasiphi Moya. So meaning that whatever God gives, because my mom could not give me a name because she's disappointed. And then this elderly woman said, listen, Nasiphi Samgela. Dada decided that I will look after his livestock. So I've got the Puma Silwe stuff. It's the stuff you learn when you are looking. That is so
that you did.
Listen, I took that responsibility.
That's where the strength comes from.
Listen,
and you took it seriously, like you said.
And discipline. And responsibility. You need to think what time you must release goats, which is different from sheep, which is different from cattle. Because then they will tell you this as the season changes, you need to know what time, when can you not release that. So it teaches you responsibility and thinking of something else, not only for you. I did this until standard 7. You can imagine how embarrassed I was when I was a teenager and I was the only one who's got friends who are boys, because that's where I spend most of my time. The fights that now we get into. But I then moved to a hostel. So my father used to stay in a hostel in Kokoletu. That's where, so once you finish standard 7, you then go to Cape Town and do your high school. If I tell you, I despise hostels. The way we lived there. Remember, I come from where there are 4 rondavels in a yard. Now all of a sudden you share a room with another family. You sleep on the floor, you sleep sideways, upways, and I think for me, because then I became a debater at school, then I got more conscious about, but other people don't live the way we live. Why do we live like this? Remember, in the village, you're not open to this.
No.
You're only open to what is in front of you.
Yeah.
And so I grew this conscious. When I got to UCT, I get there as a first year who can't speak English. Now, question is, can't you exams I know before you get there, like exams were cramming. Now UCT then says, firstly, my roommate, your beautiful soul from Mafikeng, she studied to be a doctor. Tshwane. I've never met a Tshwane person before, because Anditi from Mpikwana to Guguletu, where would I have met a Tshwane? So we would have to speak English. But it just happened that she was the kindest.
Wow.
Because she was patient with me. Now, I've never had to converse in English. Then the depression, which I didn't know was depression, hit. I spent time in libraries but there was a breaking moment when I was doing masters. Now, I've never failed a subject at UCT.
Even with the English, barrier, the language barrier that exists.
Yes, there's something that I shared with the Vice Chancellor of UCT. I said to him, don't ever let people believe UCT didn't do anything for this country. If you need an example, look at me. Remember, me getting into UCT doesn't mean that I passed more than the kids from Bishops or
all these.
They reserved a space for people like me.
Yes.
And the thing that I appreciated, there were 2 courses that were compulsory. It was critical thinking, which scarred me because I can't pass buildings without analyzing them. Now, that's what we're taught, critical thinking. There was no critical thinking. And the second one was language in humanity. So they teach you English because you would obviously not had English first language. And so at the end of the first semester, I was better than when I came in. And when I went home, because that passed on later that year, I was sitting and he used to take me seriously. We sit on the table when we speak. We discuss.
Some verse about serious things,
And then I said to him, hey, Tata, I think for the first time I'm not failing, Yashem. It's tough there. My father looked at me and was like, nah, not when. But go back and get us the results. And then he then asked, so how are things? Like, those kids, Dada, they've got clothes. I mean, when I got there, my bag was this size. It had everything that I own. And like, those kids have money, Dada, this. And my father said, Nasiphi, I don't want you to limit yourself. When other kids go to other, you go to, he called it a tour. When they go to a tour, you must get there. But you know what you need to do? Take your bread and water. Into emnandi phelela apha Nasiphi. That was the last conversation I had with Dada. I went back. When I got there, I could not believe that I've passed all my subjects. As a result, I said, if I can pass all my subjects. It was all 50s, by the way, 55, 56, no, nothing fancy. So from there, I told myself, I will never fail. If I can survive that semester, I can survive everything, including his passing. It happened in the second semester, but I told myself it would be an insult to him. I started working on my first year because now I'm left with a stingy parent. The one who used to give me money is gone. And then I started working. I studied, I worked. In masters, I realized that I've shocked the system too much because I used to want to make a decent salary because Mama was sick and my sister and I wanted her to slow down. So wanted to make enough money to tell her to slow down. And in masters, it hit. There are two songs that I used to listen to when I'm writing my thesis until I listened to Maya Angelou, the book.
Yes, my
I know why Cage Betsy. Yes. And she tells a story of her childhood and how she reclaimed her voice.
Yes. A very traumatic childhood.
Very traumatic, with elements that I could see myself. I resonated with that. But what I was reading the book and the woman she has become, that pushed me. I said, so by the time I finished masters, I could decline jobs.
Yes.
No, this is not good enough. I don't apply for this kind of job. And then I was like, oh, girl, this is good. So that resolve, it's a mixture of what I've been subjected to in life and say, I'll never do it to another human being.
Sure.
Some of the stuff that I would have loved to have been given, but I was never given. To say, I survived it, but I don't know if other people would survive it. I don't want them to experience it if I can help it. So when I push hard for young people in Tshwane, it's because people like Stembile Mbete.
Yes.
When I was doing grade 10, 11, 12, Ste was a UCT student participating in Shoko, the organization, coming to our township schools. They didn't have to do that. To a point where the first time I landed in UCT, I wanted to find Shoko offices because of her. It happened that she became a tutor, my tutor later on.
Oh, amazing.
Right. And these are people who loved us without knowing us. And I always promised myself I will pay it forward. And when I realized how powerful this position is, listen, this is not my position. I'm given by a coalition. It's not my position. It doesn't belong to my party. I have no entitlement to this position. But I'm saying for as long as I can, I will use this position to open doors and show possibilities with this position. And saying to young people, there's value in this position. Don't be too far from it. If you can go, I mean, we went to TUT and I proposed to the executive dean, start a master's in city administration, make government fashionable again. Governing must be
fashionable again.
Fashionable again, where people know. And listen, Nandi, when you have 38% unemployed residents, government becomes the first and the last line of defense. How do you then allow mediocrity in that space? Because without government, you won't be able to give that food parcel. You won't be able to give free clinic services. You won't be able to do the things that will make these people to live a decent life. Now, when you want to play small, no, I will allow the officials to run with this. No, but people look at you and say, that position, can you use it for me? So I always say, this position doesn't belong to me. I don't have that thing. When I'm the mayor. No, I'm not Nasiphi, who's in a position of a mayor. For as long as I can use my talent to serve my country, and I see this position as an opportunity. I did not even pray for this one. Believe me, I've got prayers.
Yes.
Definitely not for this one. But I'm saying to people who are saying we've given up on government, you don't have a choice. But pay attention.
You don't.
Or else you will come back 10 years later to pay attention and everything would be eroded.
You know, for mothers watching, I know they're just in awe with your words. We don't have a choice. I really do feel a sense of focus. I think the timing of all of this is necessary. Thank you so much for just sharing your heart. You're so passionate about this beautiful country. We need people who want to lead in this manner as well. And I love the fact that I know their mothers not only watching this, but also their kids as well, who hopefully see someone like yourself and say, I would like to lead in that manner as a female, or I just like to lead,
Yes.
in my own life, but for others as well, and to serve. I am so grateful you shared your time with us. Your time is very precious because you are for the people. And we thank you so much for being here on the Motherhood Network.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having me.
Thank you.
And thank you for being such a beautiful soul.
Oh.
You know, there is a view of celebrities that you have, the remarks you made a few weeks ago. That's what we say to our men who don't have millions and millions to buy us everything in the world. To say, listen, it is what it is.
Yeah.
But you're still valuable. You know? And I think we have been looking for the wrong things on men. And us as women, sometimes we must take responsibility how we don't help to build up sometimes. Sometimes we don't know how to. But for us who can listen to a woman like yourself saying, listen, there's a way. Just be kind and be loving. Maybe things will just work out.
Yes.
So thank you so much for that.
Thank you for that. And of course, for those who deserve it, people like yourself who are passionate, just for us to heal, but again, to support those who mean well,
Exactly.
whether female or male.
Exactly.
We are proudly feminine. We are proud of being female, strong females as well. We're saying as a society, for those men who are willing to support us, we thank you, continue to do so for us. But most importantly, we are thanking you for taking the time. May you continue to do the work, and voting is coming later on this year, possibly next year. But yes, we're hoping that you continue to do your incredible work.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you so much.